Good morning students. Hello friends. Welcome to Ashoka Online Academy. My name is Avinash. I am teaching the daily current affairs here in the Ashoka Online Academy educational platform. So thank you for your support and please follow these current affairs. It will be useful for your UPSC civil service examination and also Telangana State Public Service Commission Group 1, Group 2, Andhra Pradesh State Public Service Commission Group 1, Group 2 exams. So this is how we will proceed with this particular current affairs topics. So Ashoka Online Academy daily current affairs program, we will see the table of contents first. So what we are going to discuss today as part of this particular today's 27th 28th August current affairs. See here, there is a biodiversity topic called as global cats status. So what is this? It is an international criteria given to the tiger reserves in India. So what is this global cat status? Who will give this? Why they will give this particular status? What tiger reserves were given this particular status in India? All this we will understand. This is a prelims topic. Similarly, we will understand an Indian agriculture topic, sugarcane fair and remunerative price. Sugarcane fair and remunerative price. Like minimum support price for agricultural crops, we have for sugarcane fair and remunerative price. What is this? We will try to understand from prelims perspective. Then we have a program called as Sujalam campaign. So what is the Sujalam campaign? Why the Sujalam campaign was introduced? Which ministry? What it will do? All this we will understand again from prelims point of view. ODF plus status. So what is this? Open defecation free plus and open defecation free plus status. What is the definition? Who will give it? Why they will give it? All this is from prelims perspective under Swachh Bharat mission. Now we will understand a mains article. The Sambar saltwater lake in Rajasthan, the only inland saltwater lake in Rajasthan, and the death of birds in Sambar lake. You can expect a question in mains, UPSC, and also the Group 1 mains and Andhra Pradesh Public Service Commission mains exam, this topic. So understand this, 18,000 birds, they died last year in the Sambar saltwater lake. Why did they die? What conditions led to their death? All this we will try to understand in a step-by-step manner. Why? Because it is a very difficult topic to understand exactly what happened there. From mains perspective, we will understand this particular topic. So this is how we proceed the today's class discussion. So let us begin. So follow this video till the end. You will understand and you will definitely you will get very good points. Whatever the time you are giving for studying or understanding these current affairs by watching these videos, trust me, these are the most productive times for your exams and your career. So that's why don't skip the video and try to watch till the end, so that you will get at least a few points that you don't know earlier. I will guarantee that. So this is how it is. So see this particular topics. First topic is about environment and biodiversity. Cats status. So what do you mean by cats? Cats means conservation assured tiger standards. Conservation assured tiger standard status. So what is the status? It is launched in 2013. Who launched it? An international group of wildlife experts and protected area managers have created this standards or criteria. So wildlife experts at the global level and the protected area managers. Protected area managers means like national park is there. Some official, the Indian Forest Service official will maintain it, manage it. That is how they develop the protocols called as CATS, Conservation Assured Tiger Standards Protocol. It is in news. So what is the news related to this? Very simple. 14 out of 52 tiger reserves have received the Conservation Assured Tiger Status CATS accreditation for meeting a set of standards for effective conservation of big cats, that is tigers, as per the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So out of the 52 tiger reserves which we have in India, okay, we 14 received the CATS accreditation. Understand that very clearly. So Government of India has launched the Project Tiger. Government of India has launched the Project Tiger in the year 1973. Project Tiger. So immediately in 1973, the Government of India declared 9 tiger reserves in India. 9 tiger reserves in India. This is in 1973. Now come to 2021. We have the 52 tiger reserves in India. We have the 52 tiger reserves in India, spread over 18 states in India. If you take the Telangana, we have 2 tiger reserves. So what are these 2 tiger reserves? We have the Kavval Tiger Reserve. Kavval Tiger Reserve is there, and we also have the Amrabad Tiger Reserve. Understand this very clearly. Amrabad Tiger Reserve is in news at the national level from Telangana because Government of India, especially the National Board for Wildlife, which was established in the year 2002 as a statutory body by amending the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and headed by the Prime Minister himself, the National Board for Wildlife last year it gave permission to go for uranium mining in the Amrabad Tiger Reserve of India. In the core area of the Amrabad Tiger Reserve, there are uranium reserves. But if you go for mining, definitely it will lead to threat to the forest and this particular tiger. But India is importing huge amount of uranium from other countries like Australia, Canada, Mongolia and Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Central Asian countries, and this uranium is required to act as a fuel for our 22 nuclear power plants which produce 6,500 megawatt electricity for India, contributing 6% of total electricity to India. So this particular uranium is there in Amrabad Tiger Reserve. As an exception, the Prime Minister headed National Board for Wildlife gave permission to go for uranium mining with the advanced technologies so that they do not disturb the tiger ecosystem in the Amrabad. Remember this very clearly. So this is the background information about the tigers and tiger reserves. Project Tiger, and we have right now 52 tiger reserves in 18 states of India. In that 52, 14 has received the CATS standard or CATS accreditation. Understand that very clearly. You can expect a question in the prelims. But who give this particular CATS standards? They are given by international group of wildlife experts, protected area managers created this criteria. Understand that very clearly. Now what aspects they consider before they give accreditation to a particular tiger reserve? These are the aspects. Okay, what aspects are monitored for accreditation? They include these. Okay, the importance and status of a reserve, how much important the tiger reserve is. Okay, and what is the status of a tiger reserve? Okay, whether it is having huge amount of biodiversity or whether it is having any other tiger corridors connected with other tiger reserves, whether it is having any river flowing through it. So all this importance and status of a reserve is considered. Then how effectively the tiger reserve is managed, how much of staff is there inside a tiger reserve, what type of technologies they are using to maintain the tiger reserve, how the staff is taking care of the prey base of the tigers inside the tiger reserve, how they are tackling the illegal wildlife trafficking inside the tiger reserve. So this is all effective management of tiger reserves. Then community participation. Okay, to what extent the forest officials are taking the help of the local communities for the protection and conservation of tiger reserves and the tigers. Okay, whether they are taking the help of the community or not, if they are taking, it is good. Okay, then ecotourism initiatives. Okay, how the tourism initiatives, how they were taken. Okay, how much least impact they have on the ecosystem of tiger reserve. So all these were considered. And what steps are taken inside a tiger reserve for protection of the tigers? Are the CC cameras, okay, fencing is there, okay, forest guards, patrolling, okay, all this is there. How much protection is there for the tigers inside a tiger reserve? That also they consider before giving the this accreditation. Effective habitat management. Effective habitat management, that means you have a big tiger reserve like this. For example, if you take Sri Sailam Tiger Reserve, 4,500 square kilometer area, how you effectively habitat, how you do the effective habitat management of such a huge area? Okay, dried leaves will fall down during the summer season. The forest guards will just collect them and see that they were disposed. Why? Because it may lead to forest fires. Okay, then there are roads passing through this particular tiger reserve. Okay, sometimes vehicles may hit the tigers and other wildlife, they may be killed. But how the forest officials are avoiding that? That is, you mean by effective habitat management. Then how much sustainable and what is the number of viable tiger population inside a tiger reserve? So there are some tiger reserves where you have the highest number of tigers. So how much tiger reserve, what is the number of tigers it can support over a period of time? That is also they check. So these are all the various points. Okay, these are all the various points, the 7 points or 7 aspects they see before they give a accreditation to a tiger reserve by the CATS, Conservation Assured Tiger Status, CATS standard or CATS criteria. So understand this. This should be very useful for you in analyzing the things. Now, I told you, out of the 52 tiger reserves, 14 were given CATS criteria. Okay, so what are these 14? Manas Tiger Reserve. Manas Tiger Reserve, it is there in Assam. Kaziranga Tiger Reserve, it is there in Assam. Orang Tiger Reserve, it is also there in Assam. Understand that? 3. Then Sundarbans Tiger Reserve, it is there in West Bengal. Understand that very clearly. Valmiki Tiger Reserve, it is there in Bihar. Remember this for prelims. Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, it is there in Uttar Pradesh. Panna Tiger Reserve, Kanha Tiger Reserve, Satpura or Satpura. Okay, Satpura and Pench Tiger Reserves, these are there in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, then Annamalai Tiger Reserve, Madumalai Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu. Then Parambikulam Tiger Reserve in Kerala. Bandipur Tiger Reserve in Karnataka. Bandipur Tiger Reserve and Bandipur National Park, okay, last 2 years back it is impacted by forest fires. Approximately 4,000 hectares of the forest land simply burned because of the forest fire incident. So here, how effectively you manage that particular tiger reserve from these natural disasters like forest fires. Based on this, these 4 were declared or given the CATS criteria. So this is the, see here, Conservation Assured Tiger Standards criteria is given, accreditation given for 14 out of India's 52 tiger reserves. So why they have given? Why? Because they met a certain set of standards for effective conservation of big cats, and it is a global level, okay, criteria given by the international group of wildlife experts and protected area managers. Understand that very clearly. So in UPSC you can expect a question like cats, they may ask something about cats, or something they may ask about what are the list of tiger reserves that were part of the CATS criteria from India. These 2 things you can expect. If you remember yesterday class, I discussed about this particular NTCA, and NTCA, okay, stopping the works inside the Jim Corbett Tiger Reserve in Uttarakhand. So there I discussed previous questions of tigers asked in the UPSC civil service examination. You can go to that particular video, last current affairs video, and watch that particular thing. Okay, understand that very clearly. So I discussed, so again I am not discussing here. Why? Because people who are following the current affairs regularly, my class, they will understand that. Okay, you can go back and see. So what is this topic? Indian agriculture topic, fair and remunerative price, FRP, fair and remunerative price to sugarcane or for sugarcane. So what is this fair and remunerative price? So all these things we will try to understand this here. So see here, it is in news. Why it is in news? Why? Because the cabinet committee on economic affairs, which is headed by the Prime Minister himself, recently approved an increased fair and remunerative price of sugarcane for sugar season in India, that is October to September, from October 2021 to September 2022, that is the sugarcane season in India. All sugarcane related activities from the plantation of crop to the final product sugarcane and its sugar and its export. This is the sugar season in India, that is from October to September. So what is this fair and remunerative price? It is increased by this particular cabinet committee on economic affairs headed by the Prime Minister himself. So see here, how much they increased. Central government has hiked the fair and remunerative price of sugarcane by ₹5 a quintal, setting the fair and remunerative price at 290 rupees for quintal of sugar. For quintal of sugar, 290 rupees, they have set this particular thing. Okay, so this sugar season runs from October to September. With the decision of the central government, what will happen? It will benefit 5 crore sugarcane farmers in India, as well as 5 lakh workers who are employed in sugar mills and other related activities in India. So let us understand about this particular fair and remunerative price in detail. So what is this about fair and remunerative price? So what is this? Understand this very clearly. Understand this particular thing very clearly. So what is this? See here, it is the minimum price that sugar mills have to pay to sugarcane farmers. Understand this very clearly. So farmers are there, they cultivate the sugarcane, and they cut the sugarcane and they bring this particular sugarcane to the mills. So when the farmer brings this particular sugarcane, the mills, has to give the fair and remunerative price fixed by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs by Prime Minister per quintal throughout the India, without any exception. That is minimum price that sugar mills have to pay to sugarcane farmers, that is 490 rupees per quintal. Understand that very clearly. There is one more thing here. The state governments, the central government said that the states can also increase this particular fair and remunerative price. That is state assured price for sugarcane. That means this particular government of India has fixed the sugarcane price per quintal. How much it may be. For that, some extra money is added by the state governments and it is given to the farmers. Why? Because the farmers we need to take care of the farmers. Why? Because if they produce only, we will have this particular sugar production in India. Understand that very clearly. So this is how it is. It is the minimum price sugar mills have to pay to the sugarcane farmers. Understand this very clearly. Who has to pay? Sugar mill owners to the sugarcane farmers. Understand that very clearly. So what is this FRP? FRP is determined by central government on the basis of recommendation of Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. So this is the one who fixes the minimum support price MSP of the paddy and wheat and other 23 crops in India. Understand that. So they also recommend a particular price for the sugarcane, but that price is called as fair and remunerative price, not the MSP. Understand that very clearly. The fair and remunerative price of sugarcane is determined under Sugarcane Control Order and announced by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs headed by the Prime Minister himself. Understand this very clearly, it is a UPSC question. Okay, see here how the Cabinet Committee of Economic Affairs finally arrive at fair and remunerative price. They arrive at by taking into account various factors like cost of production of sugarcane, okay, then domestic price of the sugar, international price of the sugar, what is the demand and supply situation for the sugar in the country and at the international level, okay, intercrop price parity means what, the sugarcane price, how much it is very much near to the other crops, okay, there should not be a lot of gap. If there is too much of gap, simply farmers will leave this particular sugarcane cultivation, they go for some other crops cultivation. So the government maintains that parity so that they have the option to go for the sugarcane and continue with the sugarcane cultivation. So that is how it is. So understand these facts very clearly. Okay. So this is how it is. FRP, remember, it is the price that has to be paid by the sugar mills to the sugarcane farmers. Then we have state assured price. That means the state government can just add few more amount to that particular fair and remunerative price and give to the farmers. That is state assured price. Okay, understand that very clearly. So additional information we will try to discuss about CACP. So what is the CACP? Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. It determines the prices, minimum support prices for 23 crops in India annually. So it is the attached office under Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, Government of India. So it came into existence in January 1965. Remember this for prelims of Andhra Pradesh and TSPSC Group 1, Group 2. CACP formed in the year 1965. CACP, it is under Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. CACP fixes the minimum support price for 23 crops. Understand that very clearly. It is an advisory body. See here, advisory body only. Whatever the prices recommended by the CACP to the Government of India, okay, these recommendations are not binding on Government of India. Government of India can increase the price or decrease the price. Understand that very clearly and give it to the farmers. And you know about Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs? It is one of the standing committees of Cabinet. Standing committees of Cabinet. So you know, okay, Prime Minister will be there in the Indian parliamentary system and Indian democratic system. Prime Minister, okay, he is the head of the government. Under him you have the Cabinet, and the Cabinet will function through various committees called as Cabinet committees. Within these Cabinet committees there are two types: standing or permanent Cabinet committees, ad hoc or temporary Cabinet committees. Standing or permanent Cabinet committees, they will always be there. They look into the very important issues like finance, okay, and the defense, security, investment, okay, appointments, like that. And ad hoc Cabinet committees or temporary Cabinet committees, they look into the various situations that arise, okay, like COVID, okay, times or some natural disasters. Simply a Cabinet committee will be formed on an ad hoc basis and they will complete the work and the committee will be dissolved. That is how it is. So see here, it is constituted by Government of India. It is headed by the Prime Minister. So important economic related decisions, okay, will be taken by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. So this is how it is. So there are two questions asked by UPSC regarding sugarcane. I am not going much detail, okay, why? Because we have to discuss other factors, other things here. So understand here very clearly, the state of Tamil Nadu, the largest producer of sugarcane in India. If you take at the global level, the largest producer of sugarcane in the world is Brazil. And sugarcane is produced within the tropical region on planet Earth. Within the tropical region on planet Earth, 37 degrees north to 37 degrees south, you can see the sugarcane cultivation on planet Earth. So this particular Brazil is the largest producer of sugar in the world, okay, and this particular in India, the Tamil Nadu is the largest producer of sugar, okay. Understand this very clearly. And sugarcane crop, it originated in Papua New Guinea island of Pacific Ocean. It is not native to India. These are simple facts related to the sugarcane. Understand that sugarcane is not a native crop of India. It originated in the Papua New Guinea. Then Brazil is the largest producer of sugar in the world, and in India, Tamil Nadu, the largest producer of sugar in the India. So this is how it is. So 2015 UPSC prelims question paper, you have a question. What is that? See here. The fair and remunerative price of sugarcane is approved by the. Who will approve the fair and remunerative price of sugarcane? So who will approve? Just see here. Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, option A. Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices, CACP, just now we have seen, okay. Then Directorate of Marketing and Inspection, Ministry of Agriculture, this is not. Agriculture Produce Market Committee, APMC, Agriculture Produce Market Committee, APMC, this is also not. Understand here very clearly, people will confuse here. CACP will recommend the price of 23 crops, okay. Within that, sugarcane is also there, but sugarcane is price is separately approved by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Understand that very clearly. And tomorrow they will ask something about fair and remunerative price in the UPSC questions. Fair and remunerative price is the price that sugarcane mill owners should pay to this sugarcane farmers. Remember that very clearly. So 2015 and 2014 also they have asked this question related to sugar. See here, I already told you, if 1 year the UPSC is asking some question on a particular topic or a particular area, you need to give more focus to that thing. 2014 they asked a question on sugar, this one. That means UPSC is saying that in future also I will ask the questions related to sugar or sugarcane, and they asked. This is 2015 question. I am always saying this again and again to you, okay. So there is easy way to predict the UPSC questions. It is 100% true, okay. Without doing that, simply we are wasting a lot of time, especially the students who are preparing for civil service exam. See here, understand this. So if anybody, any friend is there who is preparing for civil service exam, kindly share this video so that he will understand and he will benefit from it. So see here, the 2014 question is this. What are the significances of a practical approach to sugarcane production known as Sustainable Sugarcane Initiative? So what is the significance of this Sustainable Sugarcane Initiative? So see here, seed cost is very low in this compared to the conventional method of cultivation. That is the meaning of the word sustainable, okay. Understand that. Drip irrigation can be practiced very effectively in this. Effectively is a word that is very much near to the sustainable concept. Sustainable initiative concept. Simply, this is also right. There is no application of chemicals or inorganic fertilizers at all in this. So this is an extreme statement. Extreme statement. He is saying that there is no application of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Okay. Extreme statements you can in UPSC always wrong. Okay, understand that very clearly. The scope for intercropping is more in this method compared to conventional method of sugarcane cultivation. Intercropping means between the gaps of this particular sugarcane, okay, you can, this is sugarcane is there like this. In between you can go for other crops. In between you can go for other crops. That is what is called as intercropping. Okay. So 3 is gone. When see here in the options, select the correct answer using the code given below. When 3 is wrong, because it is an extreme statement, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone, and B is there. B is the right answer, 2014 question. What I am saying is, even if you don't know the concept or question, you can still attempt the question with accuracy. How? With the words that are mentioned in the question and the options. See here, what is saying? Sustainable sugarcane initiative. Sustainable means which is effective, which is environment friendly, which uses less resources, which gives more productivity, which is helpful for the environment. See here, these are the dictionary, what you call meanings are of the sustainable meaning. So see here, the seed cost is very low compared to the conventional method. That means you are decreasing the cost of the seeds in this method. Very much useful for farmers. You can take, this is part of sustainable concept. Drip irrigation can be practiced effectively. He is only saying effectively it can be done. That means in a sustainable manner. So this is also true. He is saying no application of chemicals at all in this. See, this is an extreme statement. No application of chemicals, definitely it is a sustainable concept, but here he is using extreme statement, no application at all. That means at any cost they will not use this particular chemicals and fertilizers. No, that doesn't happen in natural situations or practical situations. So see here, what are the practical approaches? See, when a sugarcane is growing, although initially the farmer has not used any chemicals or fertilizers, but suddenly some pest attack has happened and he is applying natural methods and that pest is not killed. What he will do? Definitely he will use the chemical pesticides and kill the pest, because he have to save the crop, right? So this is how it is. There is no application of chemical fertilizers at all in this. Extreme. Wrong. Remove this. So 3 is gone, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone, this one. The scope for intercropping is more compared to conventional method of cultivation. When you are going for intercropping, it means you are utilizing the land resources effectively. Sustainable concept. Very simple. So this is how it is. 2014 question. Again a question on sugarcane in 2015. Very simple. Like that I will show hundreds of questions in the last 10 to 12 years from UPSC. It is true. This is how it is. But unfortunately nobody is understanding this. Sustainable sugarcane initiative. So see here, it is a method of sugarcane production which involves using less seeds, less water and optimum utilization of fertilizers and land to achieve more yields. And it is driven by farmers. Farmers only came out with this particular initiative. As per the website information of the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, farmers only in India came out with this initiative. The Sustainable Sugar Initiative is an alternative to conventional seed, water and space intensive sugarcane cultivation. So before reading the definition itself, we solved the question by simple application of mind and by understanding the words given in the question. That's it. So next we will go for the Sujalam campaign. So what is this Sujalam campaign? What is the issue and why they introduced it? Very simple. First understand the issue. Sujalam campaign, something related to Sujalam. Jal means water, keyword. Understand that very clearly. So what is the issue here and why the government of India launched this Sujalam campaign for 100 days and what they will do? See here, the issue is disposal of wastewater and clogging of water bodies in the villages or on the outskirts of the villages remain one of the major problems in India. In India, 62% of the population, they live in the rural areas, and all the 62% population, they are living in 6,40,000 villages, 6,40,000 villages in India. Understand this very clearly. and they are engaged in agricultural activities. Out of this 62% of population who are living in 6,40,000 villages in India, nearly 54 to 57% they are depending on the agriculture activity for their livelihood. With the corona situation, again more and more people are entering into the agriculture because of the loss of jobs in the cities. Now see here, what is the problem? Problem is, whatever the wastewater that is discharging from this particular villages, all this wastewater is entering into the water bodies, freshwater bodies that are there in the villages. Understand this? And this is clogging of water bodies in villages. This is the major problem. So to overcome this problem, the government of India has launched the Sujalam campaign. So what is this? It is a 100 days campaign for grey water management and ODF, open defecation free sustainability. See here, grey water means waste water. Whatever the water that is coming from our washrooms, bathrooms and kitchens, that is all grey water. Okay, it is all entering into the freshwater bodies and damaging them. Okay, so the idea is it's a campaign for grey water management and sustaining ODF, open defecation free status. So see here, what are the activities planned? Ensure sustainability of ODF gains, create 1 million soak pits. Okay, why? Because all the waste from the bathrooms, kitchens, everything is going into the water bodies. So you need to create soak pits and ensure all newly emerging households in the villages have access to toilets. Okay, they should not defecate in open, they should have the toilets. Retrofit the toilets where needed through community mobilization. Understand this very clearly. What is happening is, wastewater is entering into the water bodies when they are defecating in the open. So the idea is, you need to create the toilets and confine them to the toilets so that they do not defecate in the open and save the water bodies into which wastewater is entering. What are the features? Campaign for making more ODF plus villages. So see here is saying ODF, here is saying ODF plus. What does it mean? ODF, open defecation free. Then we have ODF plus. Then we have ODF plus plus. What is this? We'll try to understand in few minutes. Okay. So by undertaking wastewater management at the village level, okay, it aims to achieve ODF plus status for villages across the country in an accelerated manner. Increase awareness in the people about not to defecate in open, and also maintain this particular toilets in the villages, public and individual toilets. Very simple. Why? Because all the waste is going and entering into the water bodies. So just simply remember, Sujalam campaign is all about saving the water bodies from what? From stopping the disposal of the waste into this particular water bodies. Disposal of wastewater is going into the water bodies. You need to stop it. That is the goal of Sujalam campaign. How you stop it? You need to create awareness in the people not to defecate in the open. You need to create the toilets, public and individual toilets. Okay, you need to go for wastewater management in the villages. You should take all the steps that wastewater is not entering into the freshwater bodies. Why? I will say. Okay, see here. Okay, just try to understand this very clearly. So this particular campaign, first understand the facts. I will give you more points and more analysis. So see here, understand the facts here. So the Sujalam campaign is started by Ministry of Jal Shakti. It is a 100 days campaign started on 26th August 2021. The aim is to create more and more ODF plus villages in the country. Okay, by undertaking wastewater management at village level, particularly through creation of 1 million soak pits and other grey water management activities. The idea is very simple. When people are defecating in open, the waste is entering into the water bodies. You need to stop that. For that, Sujalam campaign. Why? To save the water bodies. To save the water bodies, you need to construct the toilets. So that's why ODF plus villages you need to create more and more of them. Okay, understand this? By constructing soak pits, by constructing toilets, by constructing public and community toilets, and also the going for grey water management activity. Grey water means wastewater. Understand this very clearly. Ministry of Jal Shakti. So what they are doing here, very simple, construction of 1 million soak pits, retrofitting and repairing the toilets, access to toilets for new households, and also grey water management, that is wastewater treatment plants. So all this is there, wastewater treatment plant, construction of 1 million soak pits, retrofitting and repairing toilets, access to toilets of new households, grey water management. So this is how it is. Now let us understand this particular ODF and ODF plus status and all these terms. Understand here, many people will think that what is this construction of toilets, all stupid things, like that they will think. I will give you one simple analysis so that you will understand the importance of the Swachh Bharat mission. See here. See, in India, according to Government of India official statistics, every year between the age group of 0 to 5 years children, every year 5.5 lakh children will die because of what? Because of waterborne diseases, especially the diarrhea. So why? Because very simple, in India what is happening is people, they are defecating in open defecation. That means they go for the urination in the open and defecate in the open. Then what will happen? When they defecate in open, because of the rainfall, this particular openly defecated waste material of the men and women, it contains bacteria. So all this bacteria, it combines with the water and just it will flow in the form of runoff, and it will enter into the water bodies, it will enter into the freshwater bodies, it will enter into the water supply of the municipalities, it will enter into the water supply of the panchayat. And what will happen? Children, when they drink this particular water, they develop a condition called as tropical enteropathy. So what is this tropical enteropathy condition? So see here, it is a disease condition. So what is this disease condition? Whatever the bacteria present in the human waste, if it contaminates the water and enter into the body of, if that water is drunk by the children and enter into the body of children, their intestines develop what is called as tropical enteropathy condition. So what is that? Intestines will become very weak, and whatever the food that is taken by the child will not be absorbed by the intestine, and in the process what will happen? Slowly the child will experience what is called as malnutrition. He will experience what is called as malnutrition. Then what will happen? His immune system will his immunity will decrease over a period of time, and he will experience various types of diseases, and children will die in India. So every year 5.5 lakh children, according to the World Health Organization, 95% of the deaths of these children can be avoided if we provide clean drinking water and if we stop the people from defecating in open. For this Swachh Bharat mission, understand that very clearly. Why? Because it is a shame that every year 5.5 lakh children are dying in India between 0 to 5 years, and in that 95% of deaths are avoidable and can be avoided. So just by supplying the clean drinking water and stopping the people from defecating in open. So what are the future ramification or usefulness of this particular program? Every year 5.5 lakh children are saved. Okay, so if you just take down the line 20 years, you will be saving the lives of more than 1 crore people, children, who will become the future generation of this particular country. So that's why the Swachh Bharat mission campaign. But without understanding this, simply we do not understand the importance of the program. Okay, even the district collectors, sometimes when they are talking about this program, they will laugh in the Independence and Republic Day speeches, construction of toilets. When they use that word, they will laugh because they don't know the importance. The importance is this. So understand this very clearly. So see here, Swachh Bharat mission was started on 2nd October 2014. It's a mass movement that seeks to create a clean India by October 2nd, 2019, 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. It has two components: Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, Swachh Bharat Mission Rural. In urban cities, it aims for elimination of open defecation, conversion of unsanitary latrines to pore flush latrines, that is water, eradication of manual scavenging. Why? Because people are going and taking the waste from the manholes and dying. Municipal solid waste management, and bringing up behavioral change in the people regarding healthy sanitary practices. So these are all the aims of the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban. It is implemented by Ministry of Urban Affairs, Housing and Urban Affairs. Remember this, you will understand. Okay, pause this video and read, you will understand. Then what is the Swachh Bharat Mission Rural? Phase 1, it aims to make India an open defecation free country. Why? Because open defecation, it happens in the rural areas and the outskirts of the urban cities. Within the urban cities, open defecation does not happen. So that's why the phase 1, it wants to make India an open defecation free country. It seeks to improve the levels of cleanliness in rural areas through solid and liquid waste management activities, and making Gram Panchayats open defecation free, clean and sanitized. You read it, you will understand. So who will implement this? Ministry of Jal Shakti, Department of Drinking Water Sanitation. Many exams they asked this. Who implement Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin? Who implement Swachh Bharat Mission Urban? Conducted by UPSC itself, like CDS, CAPF, all those things. Now let us understand what is this ODF, what is this ODF plus, what is this ODF plus tags or certifications. ODF means open defecation free. That means you should stop the open defecation by humans. Sikkim is the first ODF state in India that everybody know. So what is this definition? Definition is no visible fecus is found in the environment, village and every household as well as public or community institutions using the safe technology for disposal of fecus. That means there should not be any visible fecus found in the environment or village. First thing. Second thing is that the households and public institutions, communities should use the safe technologies for disposal of the fecus. Why? Because if you don't use safe technologies, they end up in the water bodies. Again, tropical enteropathy, I just now discussed. So this is the definition. If any village or any city or any settlement following this particular definition of criteria of ODF, they will declare ODF. Okay, so this is under Swachh Bharat Mission. So except Goa, Tripura, Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Assam, West Bengal, Odisha, all other states and union territories in India are ODF states, open defecation free states. Except these states, all other are open defecation free states. Understand this very clearly. Now what is ODF plus and ODF plus plus? See here, the definition is a city or ward is declared as ODF plus if at any point of day not a single person is found defecating in open or urinating in open. and all community and public toilets are functional, well maintained, then you give the ODF plus tag or certification to that particular city. This is the definition. Then what is ODF plus plus? Definition is a particular city is declared as an ODF plus plus. It has to follow ODF plus, it has to have ODF plus status, and at the same time what it should do is that the fecal sludge and sewage, that is municipal sewage, is safely managed and treated with no discharging and dumping of fecal sludge in drains and water bodies. Always remember, అటు తిరిగి మళ్ళీ ఫీకల్ స్లడ్జ్ దగ్గరికి వస్తుంది. Why? Because the government wants to stop open defecation. The government wants to create awareness in the people that you need to stop the open defecation. Why? Because in India every year 5.5 lakh children are dying just because you are defecating in open and polluting the water bodies. Please don't do that. You go for toilet, construction of toilets. So that is how it is. ODF plus status is here, not a single person should be defecating in found defecating in open or urinating in open, and all toilets are functional. At the same time, the municipal water, whatever is there that is flowing in the drains, it should be treated, and it should be treated safely, and dumping of fecal sludge into the water bodies is avoided. The ODF plus protocols are given by Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. Understand that very clearly. This is very, very important. Okay, people are not understanding this. Okay, clearly understand this. Pause the screen, write it. Okay, understand this. So this is how it is. This is what I want to discuss. So what I discussed here is actually the program I want to discuss is Sujalam campaign only. But Sujalam campaign, to discuss this, we need to see, this is about ODF sustainability. To discuss that, we need to discuss about this Swachh Bharat mission, Swachh Bharat urban, Swachh Bharat rural, then ODF plus, then ODF plus protocol. So I am giving additional information also, so that the entire topic is in a comprehensive manner. So understand this and utilize this opportunity. So let us discuss this particular Sambar Lake and death of birds in Sambar Lake. So understand here, these are all facts. You will get these facts everywhere. I will discuss about why the birds died. Sambar Lake is country's largest inland saline water lake, situated 80 km southwest of Jaipur in Rajasthan. It is a 230 square kilometer area lake located in 3 districts of Rajasthan: Jaipur, Nagaur, Ajmer. 3 districts, remember 3 districts, 230 square kilometer area, and also the what you call largest inland saline water body. And Rajasthan is the 3rd largest producer of salt in India. First is Gujarat, second is Tamil Nadu, and 3rd is the Rajasthan, 3rd largest producer of salt in India. Most all the salt, it is produced in the Sambar Lake. So it is, the lake is fed by rivers Mendna and Rupangar. Remember this. Okay, and it is also a Ramsar site, wetland of international importance. Okay, every year thousands of migratory birds like flamingos, okay, they migrate from northern Asia every year and they come there. Birds like pink flamingos, storks, pelicans, redshanks, okay, sandpipers, black winged stilts, okay, they come to this particular lake every year from all over the world, especially from the North Asia, Siberia, they will come. But okay, see here, the lake produces 196,000 tons of clean salt every year. I told you, Rajasthan, 3rd largest producer of salt in India. First is Gujarat, and second is Tamil Nadu, 3rd is this particular, okay, what you call the 3rd largest producer of salt in India. Everything is good, Sambar salt water lake. But last year what happened? 18,000 birds. So how many birds? Approximately, government of India is saying 18,000 birds. But unofficially, the Down to Earth magazine run by Sunita Narayan, she is saying that more than 50,000 birds were killed in the Sambar saltwater lake. What happened? What led to the mass death of birds in the Sambar lake? Let us understand this, the main topic, in a simple manner. So see here, factors that contributed to the death of birds in the Sambar lake. Understand this very clearly, step by step manner. Follow this, it will be useful to you. With good monsoon in 2019, Sambar lake received full water levels after 30 years. After 30 years, what happened? The 230 square kilometer area of Sambar saltwater lake, it received huge amount of water because of the good rains. Very good and fine. But what is happening is, when the water is more and more added into this particular Sambar saltwater lake, along this particular water, large population of crustaceans like shrimps, crabs, prawns, algae, they also entered into the Sambar saltwater lake. Then what happened is, try to understand this in a simple manner. When the water is added because of the more rains, all the water is flowing through the agriculture fields, and agricultural fields are full of chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers, and all these chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, they end up in the Sambar saltwater lake. And huge amount of water is added. Shrimps, crabs, prawns, algae, all of them also entered into this particular Sambar saltwater lake. Then what happened is, because of the excessive nutrients added by the agricultural runoff, that means agricultural fields are there here. So agricultural fields, they use the what you call the chemicals and fertilizers, right? Chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers. So whatever the chemicals, fertilizers are there, they are added into the lake. More and more nutrients are added into the lake, led to the problem of eutrophication. Eutrophication means well nourishment, eutrophication problem. So what is this eutrophication problem of a lake? Lake is having huge amount of nutrients added because of the agriculture runoff. What will happen? When there is more nutrients, more and more algae will be produced. Understand that very clear. That is called as eutrophication. When more and more algae is produced, the algae will be produced and it will die. And whatever the bacteria are there in the lake, they will decompose the algae, and in the process, they reduce the oxygen levels inside the lake. The biological oxygen demand will increase, and the creatures that are there inside, they will not get the oxygen. So what the eutrophication will lead to? Lack of sufficient oxygen levels in the lake. Understand that. And at the same time, it is a saltwater lake, high salinity is there. At the same time, large number of invasive species are added like crabs, prawns, shrimps, algae. At the same time, dumping of waste and animal dead bodies in the lake by the local people. All these factors, what happened? Led to, see here, what happened? Just see here. All the factors created a suitable condition for the growth of bacteria inside the lake water called as Clostridium botulinum bacteria in the lake. So what is this bacteria? It is a bacteria that is naturally present in all water bodies, fresh water bodies, salt water body, oceans, mangrove swamp areas, wetlands, everywhere you have this Clostridium botulinum bacteria. Very good. But this bacteria requires nutrient rich substrate, that means surface in the lake, and anaerobic conditions for its growth and reproduction. Understand this. Wherever the bacteria is there in the water, it is naturally present, but it will produce in huge numbers, reproduce in huge numbers when the surface of the lake is having rich nutrients. Here in the Sambar lake, what happened? Agricultural runoff, lot of nutrients were added into the lake, and all of them, they settle in the bottom of the lake. And eutrophication problem is there. With eutrophication problem, less oxygen levels in the lake and aerobic conditions, absence of oxygen conditions. In this situation, that is more amount of nutrients, lack of oxygen in the lake, the Clostridium botulinum bacteria, which is naturally present, it will reproduce in huge number. Now see here what is happening. The bacteria, when it is reproducing in huge number, why it is reproducing in huge number? Why? Because the lake is having nutrients surface at the bottom and it is having less oxygen levels. These two conditions are required for the reproduction of bacteria in huge amount. But when it is reproducing in huge amounts, the bacteria will release the toxins. See here, the bacteria releases natural toxin called as botulin. The spores of the bacteria release the toxin during the reproduction phase. Understand that very clearly. Okay, see here. The botulin toxin affects both the humans and birds. The toxin released by this bacteria attacks neurons, which leads to muscle paralysis. The bacteria releases 8 types of toxins called as A, B, C1, C2, D, E, F and G. In this, the toxin types C1 and C2 responsible for mortality of the birds. Okay, and the toxin types A, B and E can cause mortality in humans. If humans drink that water, they will also die because of the paralysis. Understand that? Why? Because the toxin directly attacks the neurons in the brain. Understand this very clearly. So this, what toxins that are released by bacteria is identified by High Security Animal Disease Laboratory, Bhopal, Indian Veterinary Research Institute, Bareilly, Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, SECON, Salim Ali Center for Ornithology, Coimbatore, concluded that avian botulism, that means the birds died because of the botulin toxin released by Clostridium botulinum bacteria in the lake, is responsible for death of 18,000 birds in Sambar Lake. Understand this very clearly. I will assure you, people who are watching this video will not able to understand this concept, death of birds in Sambar Lake, when they listen to it for the first time. Once again, understand this, watch the video again and again this topic and understand it. This is the most authentic information we have on the death of the birds in the Sambar Lake. You can expect a question in the prelims, mains of UPSC and TSPSC Group 1, Group 2 also. Understand this very clearly. Again and again see that particular topic video, you will understand. So I discussed about the death of birds. Whatever the words I said in the video of this topic, understand them slowly. Okay, then write it on a paper and then you will understand exactly what happened. Okay, so this is how it is. Okay, if you want, I will discuss this again in the next class also. So please mention in the comments. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. Please do share, subscribe and encourage us so that we come out with a very good content. So in the next class, I will discuss about the Afghanistan map also in detail. Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.